Hi, welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to write HTML markup for About section. Let us get started. Before I start writing HTML markup for About section, I want to install an important brackets extension. The name of the extension is Indent Guides. I'll open brackets extension manager. I'll go to Available tab and I'll search for Indent Guides extension. This is the extension I'm looking for. This extension will show indent guides for code inside the code editor. I'll go ahead, I'll install this extension. It has been installed. I'll close these windows and now you can see indent guides for HTML markup inside the index.html file. You will also see indent guides inside the style.css and inside the custom.js file. The indent guides extension can help us to format the code as well as we can see the opening and closing tags. I'll close head section and I'll close home and services section. Okay, I'll get back to writing HTML markup for About section. I will write comment for About section. I'll create a new section for About section. I'll assign an ID to this section and the value for this ID is About. Inside this section, I'll write the HTML markup for About section. First, I want to write the HTML markup for diagonal background image, which is on the right side. I'll write comment for the diagonal background image. It will also has parallax effect. For diagonal background image, I just need to create an empty div. And I'll assign an ID to this empty div and the value for this ID is About BG diagonal. I will add CSS to this empty div to make it diagonal background image with parallax effect later in CSS lectures. Second, I need to write HTML markup for title, paragraph and button which are on the left side of About section. I will use Bootstrap grid classes. I will add a div with Bootstrap container class. Inside this container div, I need to create a div with Bootstrap row class. Inside this div, I'll create Bootstrap columns. For About section, I just need to use 4 Bootstrap columns. I'll create a div and I'll use Bootstrap column classes. And for About content, we need only 4 columns. To make structure of About section content, I need to create content box. I'll create a div and I'll assign an ID and the value for this ID is About content box. Inside this content box div, I need to create 2 more divs, the outer and the inner content box divs. I'll first create the outer box div. The value for the outer box div is About content box outer. It will act as the outer box for the content box, and inside this outer box, I need to create the inner box. These 2 divs will help us to align the content vertically and horizontally, which I will explain later in CSS lecture. On left side of About section, there are 3 elements, the heading, paragraph and a button. The About's heading has same look like services heading and I wrote generic HTML markup and generic CSS classes for content title in last section. I'll use those generic HTML markup and classes for about title. I'll go to the services section. This is the generic HTML markup for content title which I wrote in last section. I'll copy this generic HTML markup and I'll simply add it for the content title of about section. I'll change the title from services to about Vesco and I'll go to the browser and I will see the result. Now we have a good looking content title for the about section. And do you see, by writing generic HTML markup and CSS classes, we are not repeating ourselves and we are saving a lot of time. I'll make a little adjustment to this heading and underline to make it left aligned later in CSS videos. Okay, now we have a heading for the about section. I'll move forward. After heading, I'll write HTML markup for paragraph. I'll create a div. I'll assign an ID to this div and the value for this ID is about description. And inside this div, I'll add p element. I need to add some dummy content to this p element, and to add dummy content, I'll use brackets lorem ipsum extension which I installed in last section. To add dummy content, I need to write lorem and I'll just press tab and it will add some dummy content for me. For some reasons, live preview is not working. Okay, I need to refresh. Okay, after paragraph, we need to add one last element, which is the button element. I'll create a div. I'll assign an ID to this div and the value for this ID is about btn. And inside this div, I'll add a element, anchor element, and I'll add some bootstrap button classes. btn -lg. These are bootstrap button classes. And you can check for these button classes on bootstrap documentation. They have btn class and they have btn-lg class which provides basic styling for buttons. After that, I will add btn-general class. This is the class which we created in home section. Let me show you. As you can see that we have a section for buttons inside the style.css and we created custom button class, and the name for this class is button-general, which will also provide a basic styling for our button in Vesco website. After that, I'll write href attribute and I want this button to point to our work. So I will add work and the role for this button is button, and I'll add text for this button and the text is our work. I'll go to the browser. I'll refresh the page. I think it is sometime working and sometime not working. I'm not sure what is wrong with the live preview. I'll click on this live preview again. Right now it is disconnected. Okay, now we have a button for the about section. In coming videos, I'll style this button so it will have a blue border and background, as we did for the white button in home section. I'll inspect this button. I'll save index.html file and I will click on this live preview again. I'm not sure what is wrong with this live preview right now. I want to show you the code for this button in the Chrome Developer Tools. Okay, as you can see that there is some style applied by the btn class and by the btn-lg class, which are bootstrap classes. And this is the custom btn-general class which we created in the home section, and you can see that there is some basic styling for this button. As I said in my coming videos, I'll style this button to make it blue button like this one. Okay, that is all about writing HTML markup for about section. In next video, I'll start styling this about section. Thanks.